Raiding, also known as depredation, is a military tactic or operational warfare mission which has a specific purpose and is not normally intended to capture and hold terrain but instead finish with the raiding force quickly retreating to a previous defended position prior to enemy forces being able to respond in a coordinated manner or formulate a counterattack. A raiding group may consist of combatants specially trained in this tactic, such as commandos, or as a special mission assigned to any general troops. Raids are often a standard tactic in irregular warfare, employed by warriors, guerrilla fighters, or other irregular military forces. Some raids are large, for example the Sullivan Expedition. The purposes of a raid may include to demoralize, confuse, or exhaust the enemy, to ransack, pillage or plunder, to destroy specific goods or installations of military or economic value, to free POWs, to capture enemy soldiers for interrogation, to kill or capture specific key persons, to gather intelligence. Land. Tribal societies. Among many tribal societies, raiding was the most common and lethal form of warfare. Taking place at night, the goal was to catch the enemy sleeping to avoid casualties to the raiding party. Cattle raiding was a major feature of Irish society in the Iron Age and forms the central plot of the historical epic Tain Bocu Éange, English, Cattle Raid of Cooley. The traditional habit of Bedouin tribes of raiding other tribes, caravans, or settlements is known in Arabic as Ghazoo. Arabia during Muhammad's era. The Islamic prophet Muhammad made frequent use of raiding tactics. His first use of raids was during the caravan raids, and his first successful raid was the Nakhla raid. In January 624 Muhammad ordered this raid to attack a Quraysh caravan and gather information during the invasion of Thiamr. He ordered a raid on the Banu Muharib and Banu Talaba tribes after he received intelligence that they were allegedly going to raid the outskirts of Medina. One person was captured by Muslims during this raid. In August 627 he ordered the first raid on Banu Thalaba, a tribe already aware of the impending attack. So they lay in wait for the Muslims, and when Muhammad ibn Maslama arrived at the site, 100 men of the Banu Thalaba ambushed them, while the Muslims were making preparation to sleep, and after a brief resistance killed all of Muhammad ibn Maslama's men. Muhammad ibn Maslama pretended to be dead. A Muslim who happened to pass that way found him and assisted him to return to Medina. The raid was unsuccessful. Medieval Europe. Small-scale raiding warfare was common in Western European warfare of the Middle Ages. Much of a professional soldier's time could be spent in little war, carrying out raids or defending against them. Typical of this style of warfare was the mounted raid or shavachi, popular during the 100 Years' War. Shavachis varied in size from a few hundred men to armies of thousands, and could range in scope from attacks on nearby enemy areas to the devastation of whole regions, such as that carried out by the Black Prince in southern France in 1355. This last is notable not just for its success and scope but the fact that the raiders deliberately captured records in order to carry out a post-operational analysis of the impact of the raid on the enemy economy. Large-scale raiding. The largest raids in history were the series undertaken during and following the Mongol invasion of Central Asia. Examples of lesser-scale raids include those staged by the Cossacks of the Zaporizhian Sich, the Grande Army, and cavalry raids that took place during the American Civil War such as Morgan's Raid, and numerous examples of small group raids behind enemy lines that have taken place throughout all periods of history. In the operational level of war, raids were the precursors in the development of the operational maneuver groups in the Soviet Army as early as the 1930s. Seaborne. Raiding by sea was known at the time of the Pharaohs, when the shipborne forces of the sea peoples caused serious disruption to the economies of the eastern Mediterranean. In the early Middle Ages, Viking raiders from Scandinavia attacked the British Isles, France, and Spain, attacking coastal and riverside targets. Much Viking raiding was carried out as a private initiative with a few ships, usually to gain loot, but much larger fleets were also involved, often as intent on extorting protection money, English, Danegeld, as looting and pillaging. Raiding did not cease with the decline of the Viking threat in the 11th century. It remained a common element of the medieval naval warfare. Extensive naval raiding was carried out by all sides during the 100 Years' War, often involving privateers such as John Hawley of Dartmouth or the Castilian Pero Nino. In the Mediterranean, raiding using oared galleys was common throughout the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, and was particularly a feature of the wars between the Christian powers and the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century. Raiding formed a major component of English naval strategy in the Elizabethan era, with attacks on the Spanish possessions in the New World. A major raid on Cadiz to destroy shipping being assembled for the Spanish Armada was carried out by Sir Francis Drake in 1587. During the Second World War, the British set up the Combined Operations Headquarters to organize harassing raids against the Germans in Europe. The first operation, conducted by a commando formation, known as Operation Ambassador, took place in July 1940, but it was a small-scale operation that resulted in negligible success. The next major raid was Operation Claymore, which was launched in March 1941 against the Lofoten Islands. Throughout the war there were many other operations of varied size, ranging from small-scale operations like those undertaken by Z Special Unit against the Japanese in the Pacific, such as Project Opossum, to Operation Chariot, a raid on Saint Nazaire, and the Dieppe raid, which was a large-scale raid employing about 6,000 soldiers, over 200 ships and 74 squadrons of aircraft intended to take and hold Dieppe sufficiently to cause sufficient destruction to the port. Air-landed. Paratroopers and glider-borne troops have been landed by aircraft on raids, including offensive counter-air missions such as those carried out by the Taishan Shuden and Jiretsu Kutsutai commandos. In the modern era, the helicopter, allowing for both insertion and extraction, offers a superior method of raid transportation, although it comes at the cost of noise. During the Second World War, several air-landed raids were undertaken, including the German glider-borne raid on Fort Eben-Emael in Belgium in 1940, and the British Operation Colossus and Operation Biting, which were raids in Italy and France in 1941 and 1942. Aerial bombardment. The Royal Air Force first used the term raid in the Second World War when referring to an air attack. It included those by one aircraft or many squadrons, against all manner of targets on the ground and the targets defending aircraft. Raid was different from battle, which was used for land, sea, or amphibious conflict. An aircraft raid was always planned ahead of time. Aircraft patrols, against U-boats, and defensive launches of carrier aircraft, against recently detected enemy ships, are differentiated from raids.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.